Welcome to our review on kinetic energy. So when we're referring to kinetic energy, we're talking about the energy that an object has when it's moving. And this is going to depend upon the mass and the speed of the object. So the formula you need to learn is in the middle there. Kinetic energy in joules is half times the mass in kilograms times the speed squared in meters per second. And I've also given you the shorthand version there, which is EK equals half mv squared. So one of the things they could ask you to do with kinetic energy is to predict what's going to happen to the kinetic energy store when the mass or the speed is altered. Now, if they were to give you a question that asked what happens to your kinetic energy when you double the mass, just saying that it increases isn't enough. You actually need to specify that it doubles. So don't just say they increase, be specific. So for example, when you double the mass, you will double the kinetic energy. Whereas if you double the speed, you quadruple the kinetic energy. Now if you can't remember that word quadruple, then you can just say it increases times 4 or it's 4 times as great, that's fine. Now, the reason for this is that the kinetic energy is directly proportional to the square of the speed of the object. To give you an example of the kind of question you could be asked, there's one here. Calculate the kinetic energy of a tennis ball with a mass of 50 grams, which is moving at 36 meters per second. So, as always, when we've got a calculation question, when we read it, we underline, circle or highlight the important bits of information. Once we've done that, we then need to write down the formula we're going to use, which in this case is kinetic energy is half times mass times the speed squared. And then we can substitute in our values from the question. Now, there is a little bit here that could lose you a mark if you weren't being careful. If you have a look at the mass, then it's been given to you in the question in grams. Now, the standard units that we have to use in our calculations are kilograms. So before we can actually substitute that in, we need to convert the grams to kilograms. And to do that, we just divide it by 1,000. So you can see when we substitute it in, it would be half times 50 divided by 1,000 times 36 squared. And do go careful when using your calculator to make sure that it is squaring the 36 and not absolutely everything. So make sure you get a lot of practice in with your calculators before the day of the exam. Hence why you should be using them on a regular basis in school, not just waiting until you turn up to the exam and borrowing one. Once you've done that, your answer therefore should be 32 joules. Hopefully at the end of this video we can talk about what kinetic energy is, we can recall the formula for calculating kinetic energy and carry out calculations using that formula.